Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Benny and today we're going to do a sort of part 2 to my previous video, which was about kind of the science of sound, hopefully like applied science, so it's going to be useful for us in understanding what's happening when we're playing, what's going on with music. This is going to be a part 2 kind of carrying on from that. So just to recap what we covered in the previous session, we established that pitch corresponds to the frequency of the vibrations of the air, and that's what sound is. And this is normally attributed to Galileo and also a guy called Mersenne. And actually I've done a bit more research on this, and it's interesting to note that, like, as quite often happens with history, these things are attributed to maybe Western thinkers. And actually there's a guy called Ibn Sina who 500 years before Galileo and Mersenne actually described pitch as the rapidity of shocks, so the rapidity, the speed of the vibration of air. So this guy, who's also known as Avicenna, and was really a bit of a genius, actually knew this sort of 500 years earlier than maybe it was established in Western science. So yeah, Avicenna's a really interesting guy, and he's made some big contributions to medicine and stuff as well. So yeah, interesting to look up if you're interested. So we've got this picture that the pitch of sound is about how fast the air is vibrating. And I just want to mention as well that when I do this, this is a slowed down version of how fast the air is actually vibrating. You'll find the frequency of sound is measured in what's called hertz. That's the name of a German physicist. And basically what it means is how many vibrations per second are going on. So a typical frequency you might hear about is like 300 or 500 hertz, or even maybe 1,000, 2,000 hertz. So that actually means that the vibrations are happening 2,000 times per second, right? So this is really happening very fast, and that's why we can't, hear the separate movement. We hear it as one kind of tone. However, what I want to talk about today is the fact that there's more to sound than just pitch. So I'll demonstrate this physically first with my hand. So we've got this picture of sound as kind of vibrations. And this type of vibration that I'm doing here, let's just clarify what I mean by this as well. This is supposed to be the air, it's compressing and then stretching out again, which is called rarefaction. So we have compression, rarefaction, and this is kind of happening very quickly, maybe hundreds or thousands of times per second. But this type of vibration that I'm showing here is actually quite a simple type of vibration. You can imagine something like this could happen. Instead it could go, and there's much more complex sort of vibrations that could be happening. So within this bigger variation, this bigger vibration that's happening, we actually have these kind of mini sub vibrations that can happen as well, and these are called harmonics. And these are what kind of define the tone, or another word for that is timbre, the timbre of a sound. So let's just see this quickly with like a Rhodes and a piano, right? I'm going to play D on both the Rhodes and the piano. So this is D on the piano. I switch over to the Rhodes. So this is the same note, it's got the same fundamental frequency, the same vibrational frequency, but they sound like very different things, right? And the reason for this is what's called harmonics. And I'm going to show you a way to visualize this using what's called an EQ. So I'm just going to get my EQ up now. So here we go. Now an EQ is a really important effect, and most musicians are going to know about this. All producers use this stuff. I would say any kind of guitarist, bassist, keys player is going to know about EQ and probably use it as an effect. We're just going to use EQ as a visualization. And specifically what it visualizes, let me just play a note so you can see. It visualizes how much of each frequency are in the sound that we're hearing. So I'll say that again. It visualizes how much of each frequency is in the sound that we're hearing. Because remember, a sound can just be one simple frequency, or it could be made up of lots of complex frequencies. So let's look at the EQ curve for the Rhodes, and we can see that a lot of the sound is concentrated around, this is around 300 Hertz. You can see at the bottom of the screen there, down here. This is around 300 Hertz, and a lot of the sound is there. But there are, and this is called the fundamental frequency of the note, and this is what defines the actual note that we're playing, right? This is what makes this a D, is the fact that this is at 293 Hertz. But also, of course, you can see, and let me just freeze this actually, you can see that there's other parts to this sound as well. In particular, there's about 2 or 3 harmonics, and these are the higher frequency vibrations that are inside the main vibration. There's 2 or 3 of these harmonics here that are defining the tone of the sound. So let's just go back to the acoustic piano and visualize the same thing. I'm going to refreeze that. Now this is actually really quite different, isn't it? Like we've still got our fundamental frequency, that's a real key term here. We've still got our fundamental frequency at around just under 300 Hertz, but the harmonics for the acoustic piano are actually much more complex than for the Rhodes. Let's go back to the Rhodes. Look at that, we've only got a handful of harmonics that we can really see here. But with the acoustic piano, there's absolutely loads, right? So next I want to show you an even more dramatic example of this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go over to Wavetable, which is a synth in Ableton. So a synth is an instrument, a kind of electronic musical instrument that can make lots of different sounds. And we're going to start with a sine wave, which is a simple type of sound. And you can actually see quite clearly here that the sine wave, it contains only a fundamental frequency. So a sine wave is literally this very simple type of vibration. And what happens as we just sort of move, we kind of morph this synth. It doesn't matter too much what's happening on a synth level here, but I just want to understand the frequency picture. We start to add, you see over here, we're starting to add these harmonics. So just to reiterate, these notes, this is all I'm playing is D, right? These are all D, but with different amounts of harmonics in. So when we get up to here, we're dealing with something really quite buzzy. It sounds like a really different thing to this. But they're all I've played is D the whole time there. So the takeaway from this section is that it's harmonics, so the higher frequency sub-vibrations inside of the main vibration, these are what create the tone or the timbre of the sound. Now, of course, this is a piano channel, so you quite reasonably might ask, what's this got to do with the piano? So let's look at that. We're going to start with an octave. So we're going to look at an octave, two notes that are separated by an octave on the piano. I'm going to use the Rhodes just because it's got that simpler waveform, if you remember. So this is a kind of middle D. Oh, nice sound. Okay, so this is a middle D, and then we're going an octave up. So my claim is that these two notes share a lot of harmonics. So let's just look at that. This is the lower D here. We can see these two harmonics. One of those is about 600 and the other's about 886. And then if we play the higher D, you see that we still have this one at 600, and this one, the 886 one's there. It's actually less pronounced here. But also these harmonics, like these ones for example, these are also present in the lower D. So actually, because the higher octave is twice the frequency of the lower octave, which is what we showed in the previous video, these actually share all of their harmonics, and this is part of the reason, well, the reason that an octave sounds like a very, what we call consonant interval, which means that it sounds pretty and nice, and it's the opposite of dissonant. It's not grating. It's very easy to kind of hear, to listen to. So next I want to show you another interval that shares, where the two notes share a lot of harmonics, and this is going to be another really important interval for building chords and all sorts. And we're gonna show that it shares lots of harmonics, but I first just want to show you how to find it on the keyboard. So this interval that I'm talking about is called a fifth. And a fifth is 7 semitones. So let's start on our D, since we've been playing D all day long. All we do to find a fifth above D is we jump up 7 semitones. So 7 steps, including the black key. So start on D, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're on A. So D to A is a fifth. Okay. And we can do this from anywhere, right? If we start with C, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and get G. C to G is a fifth. Another way of thinking about this, which some people may find more useful, is instead of thinking of a fifth as 7 semitones, we can think of it as 3.5 tones. So let's start from D again. We're going to jump 1 tone, which takes us up to E, another tone F sharp, another tone G sharp, and then a half, so a semitone. We're on A again. So again, this is our perfect fifth. Now, that's quite cumbersome and quite slow, and that's going to be quite difficult to do in real time, right? So, you know, imagine you're playing a piece or you're trying to construct a chord, let's say, and you're playing with a band, and you need to be able to find that fifth quickly. I'll show you a chord where you need to do that, by the way. But say you need to find that fifth quickly, you know, potentially in real time, actually counting 7 semitones or even 3.5 tones, which I do find a bit easier. But still, it's quite cumbersome and slow. So what we'd like, and what I'm going to show you next, is a kind of bit of a trick for how to identify a fifth quickly. And this is actually something I struggled with myself for quite a long time until I figured out this trick. Because a fifth is quite a big interval on the piano. It's sort of, you know, like a smaller interval, like a third, is kind of easier to see directly, but I found it for a long time quite difficult to see fifths. So the way to see fifths quickly is that if you want to find a fifth from any white note, so let's do D again. We want to find a fifth from D. All we need to do is skip 3 white notes and play the next white note. So A. So we skip these 3 and then we play A. So this is a fifth. I'll show you how that works from a different key, different note. So let's say we start with G. All I'm going to do is skip these 3 and then play this, which is D. And that gives me a fifth straight away. There's a similar formula for the black keys, which is that, let's say I'm on F sharp and I want to find a fifth above this. all I do is skip 2 black keys. So skip these 2, the next 2 black keys, and then play the next one. So that's a 5th. I'll do another example of that. Let's say G sharp. I'm going to skip these 2 black keys and just play this one. So that's a 5th. So the fast way to find a 5th, and I know that might seem a bit complicated, but that's that sort of, you can ingrain that and it will become quite automatic. I should mention there are 2 exceptions to that rule. And before I do that, I will reiterate the rule, which is that if you're on a white key, if you want to find a 5th above, just skip 3 white keys and play the next one. So from F, I'm going to skip these 3 and play C. And if you're on a black key, skip 2 black keys and play the next one. So I'm on G sharp here, I'm going to skip my A sharp and C sharp and play D sharp. Okay, now there are 2 exceptions to this rule, which are a bit unfortunate, but they are something that you can get used to quite easily. And those are B and B flat. So if I'm on B, if I want to find a 5th above B, let's just count our 7 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see I actually end up on a black key here. So this rule that I used about just skipping 3 white notes and playing the next white note doesn't work for B, but that's the only one it doesn't work for. Similarly with B flat, if we start on B flat and count 7 semitones, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we find that the 5th is actually F. So again, the black key rule of skip 2 black keys doesn't work here. So that's worth remembering. Let me say it one more time. If you're on a white key, to get a 5th, skip 3 white keys. If you're on a black key, skip 2 black keys. And if you're on B or B flat, just remember that they're the weird ones, and I just remember them as sort of separate things. And let me show you an example of how you might use this, right? So let's go super simple in the key of C. C major triad, like this. Hopefully this is a chord you're familiar with. It's a bit boring as it is, nothing wrong with it, but one way to make it a bit more exciting is to take the 3rd, which is E here, and put it up an octave, so we get something like this. So these are quite nice voicings. They sound quite sort of gospel-y, sort of like, right? But you'll notice that in my left hand here, this is actually a 5th. So I really need to be able to quickly, if I want to play these types of chords, I need to be able to quickly identify a 5th. So something like this might be what I want to do, right? So let's say we start on F. I need to quickly identify my 5th, which is skip 3 white keys to get to C, and I'm going to put my 3rd on top, which is A. So that's just, don't worry if that chord voicing's a bit advanced, but the idea of that is just to show you a situation where you might want to quickly identify the interval of a 5th. To expand on that, 5ths are used all the time, everywhere in music. If you've ever played guitar, you've ever played a power chord, that's based around a 5th. All sorts of chords have 5ths in them, so this is like a super important interval. And specifically, as I said earlier, it shares, the 2 notes share lots of harmonics, which is what gives it a nice consonant sound. So let's just briefly see that they share harmonics. So let's go back to our D, and let's look at these 2 harmonics here. So we've got one at this about 600. I know it's 600 because it's got a readout at the bottom of the screen. This one's about 890. So this is for our D. And now let's play the 5th, which is A. And you can see that we've got this same harmonic here at about 890. And also the other one there which is not so pronounced in the higher one. But if you were to be careful about this and look at all the harmonics, actually this would be more obvious with the piano, right? You can sort of see visually. We're not going to go in and check every harmonic, but you can sort of see visually that these are sharing a lot of the harmonics, and that is the reason that a fifth is a very pleasant consonant interval. So I'd just like to conclude by offering you a kind of practice exercise that you can do for fifths. So let's go to the key of C major again, starting with C major, and you can just simply go up your scale in playing the fifths. So start on C, and don't forget the B's weird, right? And once you've mastered that, you can try that in another key, like F maybe. Remember the B flat's weird? Actually, on the E there, I didn't play a fifth. Actually, I played a tritone. But yeah, once you've got that down, you can try doing it chromatically. So just go up in semitones. Notice I slowed down a little bit on the B flat and the B, because those are a little bit, oh, that's going to trip you up a little bit more potentially. So hopefully today we've understood what a fundamental frequency is, what harmonics are, and what a fifth is, and why a fifth and an octave are very consonant intervals. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Benny. Please do like and subscribe, and drop a comment if you got any questions, or even if you just like what you're seeing. My email is in my channel description, so if you're interested in lessons with me, you can get in touch via that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.